to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
We got Ebro, Laura, and Rosenberg, and with us today, Ray for Mayor, Ray McGuire. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How you all doing?
We are great.
Again, thank you guys for having me. This is it. I didn't reach the top now, man. Hot 97. I'm in. What we doing?
Well, the first thing we're doing is we want to ask you, how many times have people A, either asked you if you're related to Jerry Maguire, and B, think Jerry Maguire is a real person?
Oh, a lot. You know, when it came out originally, it's like you kin to him, right? I said okay, and I actually do think he's a real person. So I gotta clue him in as to there's a little difference between me and Jerry Maguire, but I'm good with that.
It's fine.
I'm good with that. Show me, what do you say? Show me
the money.
Show me the money.
That's
That's what it's all about.
Well,
right?
I'm glad you brought up money, because you are a money guy. You come from the investment banking Wall Street world, correct? That was your profession before running for mayor.
That was it for almost 4 decades, right? I came to New York City. You know what I had? I had a good education. I had a lot of debt, and I had no money. And so I came to this city, and I started competing in one of the most competitive businesses that exists anywhere. And I was able to do okay, right? I was able to do okay.
And by doing okay, you lasted for, like, what'd you say, 4 decades? And who did you work for?
4 decades. I started off, I got recruited back in 1984. I started this game in probably September of 1984. And then I decided to do this on October the 15th of 2020. That was a hard time. I called my mama and told her I quit my job. Man, I was like, really?
Now what's
your mind?
Now, Governor Christie from Jersey also used to work for one of the big banks, and we've grown to like him, even though many of us were skeptical when he first started. But he clearly sees the relationship between the economy being successful, small businesses being successful, running a state government, and helping the middle class and helping lower class people get some equity and move into the middle class. Is that your strategy as well?
That's always been my strategy, man. Like many people in your audience, listen, I came from the bottom. My single mother raised me and my 2 brothers. And so I know what it's like not to have. And when I got here, the thing that I was focused on, you got to perform. And so I've been the longest standing head of corporate investment banking in the history of Wall Street. I did that for 13 years, led that business out of the bottom of the crisis. But along the way, I've been able to make certain that I invested in our community, right? In the Black community, getting dollars in the community, invested in healthcare, invested in education, invested in economics, invested in the criminal justice system. So, my words say be known by your deeds. And so I've been known, you fact check the record and see, I've been fortunate to invest in the community for a long time. So, I got to go from the streets to the suites, which is what I've been able to do. And along the way, make certain that I could bring other people along that journey.
So how long was this in the back of your mind as something that you might eventually do? I'm sure this wasn't a quick decision. You just called your mom one day and said, hey, I'm going to do this. How long has this been a potential plan for you?
No, I had to wait a little bit before I called her. So it's been, it's probably been in the works for a year or so, straight up, probably a year or so. And then I looked at the landscape, man. I'm looking, and I wrote about this before I left Citigroup, that, we've had, before George Floyd and before COVID, there was a whole bunch of systemic inequities, like 400 years worth. And I wrote the forward to a study that we did that says the impact on the U.S. economy has been $16 trillion. And so we needed to begin to address that. And we, in that study, we went through and kind of tracked how we got there. And so I've been working for a long time trying to make sure that we could do whatever we could to address that.
Before we move off that point, tying white supremacy and racism and systematic oppression of Black people and other minority groups in this nation to actual revenue losses, okay, and lack of growth of this, whether it's local government, state, or federal. I heard some of that talk in Biden's speech yesterday or a day before yesterday, whenever it was, with regard to what he's doing with his equity program. So I want to stay on that for a little bit longer. And can you talk a little bit more in depth so the idiots out there who don't think that racism exists, or the people who are not willing to confront this, but maybe if it's tied to revenue, they will be more willing to learn about it?
So what I said was, listen, the way I think about this is that we've been outside so long that when they give us something, they give us crumbs and they think we're full. I'm not interested in the crumbs. And quite candidly, I can't tell you I'm interested in the cake. What I'm interested in us owning the bakeries. And for too long, we haven't done that. And what did Martin Luther King Jr. say? What good does it do me if I can sit at the lunch counter and can't afford a hamburger? I'm good with the sitting at the lunch counter. I'm good with the hamburger, but I want us to own the restaurant. So that's what this should be about. So that $16 trillion is identifying, listing out what the impact has been on the U.S. economy, $16 trillion. And we also go forward to say if we fix it, that adds $5 trillion to the U.S. economy. And so we've been outside for so long and people haven't been able to identify what the impact has been. I've been in the game. I've been in the room when it happened, so I see this. My responsibility was global. So my perspective is global. When it comes to us, I understand what's going down and I understand what we need to do to fix it so that we can participate in that. And you guys, you guys are successful. This is the height of success here, right?
How do you identify that? What do you attribute, like when you go at this, let's say you get the job as mayor, how do you go at this problem of, and I think it's as simple as small businesses, entrepreneurs having access to capital and lines of credit, but I'm sure there's also some sort of education process and business management process that needs to take place in this journey.
So we need to start educating our kids early. And part of my plan is to start at 6th grade. When I was growing up, I had a summer job. I dug footers, I laid tile, I changed bedpans, I DC'd IVs, I made boxes in the basement of Phil's dress shop. I was a gopher. But I got a check and I felt good about this and it exposed me to a whole bunch of things. And I want to start at the 6th grade to give our kids exposure. They can become a botanist. They can become a pharmacist. They can become a doctor. They can become what you all do successfully. And they can become a coder or a programmer. They can become a welder. But at least it gives them options. I want to give them summer jobs so they get exposed to that. So by the time they graduate, they can either go to a career or job, or they can go to a 2 or 4 year college. But it's got to start where we give our people the opportunities, like the opportunities that each of us had. I want to make sure that our kids get the same opportunity. It starts in education. It starts with jobs, starts to give them exposure, and it starts with mentoring. When it comes to the neighborhood, you got to make investments in the neighborhood with entrepreneurs. And I've been fortunate to do that, to get dollars into startup companies so they can grow. Seed round, A round. And we need to think about that. So when I become mayor, part of my platform, part of what in my jobs plan, which we introduced yesterday, that jobs plan is going to show just that and how we get dollars in there.
How do you see yourself tackling issues that are affecting New York City right now, like our homeless problem, right? We see people being shuffled from hotel to hotel, and we've even seen communities rally against, homeless facilities being moved into their neighborhood, but they have to go somewhere, obviously. How do you see yourself tackling stuff like that?
This is, first of all, we need to build affordable housing. We used to build, at the height of this, we built 2.2 units of housing per every job. Right now, we build 0.5 units for every job. We don't have enough housing. The city's too expensive for a whole bunch of people. And it gets down to when people lose their jobs and we don't have places to put them, that creates the homelessness, right? So you gotta start giving people some dignity. You gotta give them a job, which is what I've said. And when it comes to the homeless, and many of those people are suffering from mental challenges, we got to put the support services in to help these people out. Right, you got to give the support services, you got to give transition services, and you got to build enough. It is more expensive to house people in these shelters and in these hotels than it is to build affordable housing. So we got truly affordable housing. So we got to focus on that and get people, and you got to get the community involved from the start. Right now, the community's not involved. You got to get the people who are most at risk involved in these conversations, which is what I would do. I'm bringing people to the table.
Ray for Mayor. That's your Twitter. Is it Ray for Mayor?
At Ray for Mayor and rayformayor.com. You can go there and learn a lot about who I am, and you can learn about what I've done. You can learn about what I'm about to do.
Do you still believe when you make these proposals, because you brought up youth jobs, and I think the number, Laura, we've in Rosenberg, we've had this conversation on the show before. I think in the summer months, there's 150,000 youth that are eligible to work, I think. But there's only 75,000 jobs that the city has available. So there's a shortfall there, clearly. Is that where you would bring the private sector into and demand the private sector participate in uplifting New York City?
Yeah, this is a great question. The answer is yes. Where you can't do it in public with the public sector, then you got to go to the private sector. And listen, I've been able to get private sector, and I've been fortunate to negotiate deals that are, $600 or $700 billion worth of deals, much bigger than the budget, and got relationships out there so that we can bring the right people in, the right private sector in to create these jobs across a whole bunch of sectors, right? You can, and part of this is just get our kids aware. So yes, part of this is a public-private partnership, which we haven't really leveraged in a long time. Bring the private sector in, which is part of my plan. Bring the private sector in, start at sixth grade, give these kids jobs.
There's a lack of trust. There's a serious lack of trust with, what we call, us regular people and corporate America, right? Like while there's lack of trust for politicians and electeds, at least we know we elected them in so we can elect them out. When it comes to corporations, I know people feel very afraid that there is a checks and balance there. And corporations tend to run amok. So when you talk about public-private, there's a lot of lack of trust. How can we learn to trust and believe in that process? When you apply the public-private model to anything that you're trying to do, there's a lack of trust.
So let me be clear. I don't owe anybody anything, right? I quit my job to do this. My sole focus is on what's best for New Yorkers, especially those who look like me. Right. And when you talk about regular folk, I am regular folk. I've been fortunate through my mother's sacrifices to get a good education and come and compete, but I'm regular. I come from the streets. I can go from the streets to the suites. So if there's anybody out there whose agenda is pure, who's focused solely on what's best for New Yorkers, it's me. I can go from the streets to the suites. I'm as regular as it gets. My man Meeksy, ain't nobody out there realer than me. I'm good with that. Right? Because I got a track record. I've been about it. I'm not just talking about it. I've been about it. People can go check the record of where I've actually invested and made a difference. So I get that lack of trust, but I also get who I am and what I've been able to do for 4 decades in business helping folk. Not only the crumbs and not only the cake, man, but get to owning the bakeries so they get paid without getting people involved.
You want to talk lack of trust? Obviously, there's a big lack of trust with the community, particularly the black community and NYPD. And whoever the incoming mayor is going to have to navigate a relationship with a police department whose union decided to endorse Donald Trump in this of all years. How do you plan to handle an NYPD that currently is not trusted by the community?
I get the lack of trust. I'm a 6'4", 200-pound black man. If anybody gets it, I do. When we shot the launch video 2-3 blocks from my house, we got pulled over, right? Driving while black. I get that. So what I intend to do is to start with the culture, start with the head. It's going to be me. And what we should do is I have what I call RAP. Police need to be respectful, accountable, and proportionate. Respectful, they need to respect me. There needs to be mutual respect. Accountable, all the stuff with the bad cops, all that needs to be highlighted. And we need to have some evidence that they've been taken care of, that they've been removed, that they've been penalized. And proportionality, you know what they say, man. I mean, if the only thing you got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When it comes to black and brown people, it's like a sledgehammer. So you got to stop that. I want better policing. So how do I do that? 1, I'm going to change the culture. 2, I'm going to make sure that I got the mental health support. Because 4 out of 10 calls that go to 911 have to do with mental health issues. So I gotta support the mental health professionals, and then I gotta help the community organizations that have been involved in this. And you get the violence interrupters who've been really effective. The life camps of the world have been really effective at preventing a lot of this. And then I gotta go to the root cause. And I got to get the community centers, and I got to get jobs back in the community centers so our kids don't get distracted. But it first starts with the culture of the police. I want to reallocate the dollars, reallocate and reform the dollars so that they get to the organizations that mean we don't have to get the police involved. And that's how I feel.
Have you explored, we spoke to other mayor candidates, Andrew Yang. There's a couple others who are talking about a civilian police chief. Do you have any feelings on that plan?
I want matters of policing. I want to be held accountable for them. So I will look at the best alternatives to make sure that the police, and I also want to make sure that I return to community policing. I want to make sure that the police are accountable to me, whether it's a civilian police or whether or not it's a police commissioner. But I'll look at all the alternatives, and I want to take input from the community before I go legislate this, because that's important, right? It's important to get that input from the people who are most affected. Right now, there's Black and brown people. I want better policing. That's what I want, which is why I'm going to go and reallocate the dollars and get the right structure in place, return to community policing, so I can begin to recreate some of that trust. Because right now there's no trust. So I can do that, and that's what I'd be committed to. And if it's as personal to me as it is to anybody, given who I am and what I look like. I walk out of here, nobody know who I am. They just see a 6'4" Black man.
All right, now this proposal for what you have for everything we've discussed so far, we can find this on your website, rayformayor.com.
Rayformayor.com just came out yesterday. It's for 500,000 jobs. We're going big. We're going small. We're going forward.
Now, have you been meeting with people who are already elected, like the advocate for New York, Jumaane Williams? Do you talk to any of the people on the front lines that have been there now?
I have talked to, I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to people on Zoom. I have met people. I've been in all the boroughs, but there's one I need to go to, but I've been out. I've been talking to the small businesses. I was just in Brooklyn, on Nostrum, had a group of small businesses who have informed the plan. We got that input. I've been talking to the faith-based community across all the different faiths. I've been talking to the civic associations. I've been out. Now, I've been out on the ground, talking to the people, getting the input, because that's what's necessary, right? You need to do that.
You coming from working in banking and investing and all of those things, Wall Street. Mm-hmm. The access to capital for Black people has been a problem for generations. The access to home loans, predatory home loans, redlining our communities, devaluing basically Black existence in America and in the capitalism process, and the democratic process. You sitting in these rooms and overseeing these large budgets for the last 4 decades, is it as sinister as many of us think, where it's basically ignoring Black folks and not signing off on them having access to capital? Or is there something else going on?
So let me keep this real, right? In 1954, I'll give you something that's going to get close, and you guys take a look at it. 1954, we had Brown versus Board of Education, and education is that we should desegregate. In the same year, probably about an hour from here, there's a place called Levittown. Mm-hmm. Levittown was the beacon for suburban America.
That's right.
Levittown was the instance where the federal government gave subsidized loans to homeownership, but it explicitly said you got to exclude Black people. That began redlining. And so if I look from 1954 to 2021 and look at homeownership, which is the source of a lot of wealth, homeownership, which is what we should try to get to, then and what we wrote was how systemically Black people and brown people had been excluded from those opportunities.
And this was government funds. This was taxpayer dollars that went to subsidize this suburban community that Black people could not access.
Levittown, New York, not an hour away from here. Declining. Government, after the Second War, government supporting the home ownership, subsidized home ownership. And so you need to have a historical context to see where we are today. And trying to get capital into the community, you got to go to the community banks. You got to go to these CDFIs and put capital into them, which is part of my plan. You put capital into them, and then they can put capital into the community because that's what they're set up for.
And when you talk to your friends, people you used to work with about your plans moving forward, you feel like these banks are going to move with you.
Yeah, I think the bank's going to move with me. Now, part of this in what I've written, as I said before, is that all the stuff existed before George Floyd. It existed before COVID. The benefit to all of this, which is the benefit to the tragedy, is people now recognize, and they saw 8 minutes and 46 seconds of a cold-blooded murder. And they say, we're better than this. We got to do something about this. And so you have seen many corporations across the country come up with programs to begin to address the systemic racism. And we have to do that. And I recognize what it's like. And I recognize trying to get Black folks capital, personally getting folks capital in seed rounds and A rounds, because people need, friends and family. And you look around, friends and family don't have that kind of capital. I've been fortunate to be able to do that and be able to put the capital into these businesses to get them, these young people got brilliant ideas to get them started. We got to do more of that. And so, yeah, I'm going to be out front on this. I will be out front, and I know where the capital is. And I know how to get the investments into these businesses, which is so sorely needed.
Having the support of the financial community, as well as trying to root out white supremacy in the NYPD and other institutions, is you believe that's an easy balance, or you believe it's going to be tough for you?
Man, listen, to be in this business for as long as I've been in this business, they ask me how I got here, and I tell you there are four things. It is prayer, because this is a walk of faith. It is preparation, because you're not prepared, you can't do the third, which is performance. So it's prayer, preparation, performance, and it's growing up how I grew up, it's a little bit of paranoia. It will be hard, but we can get it done. Right? 13 years, global head, the only person who looks like me anywhere in the industry globally. Yeah, it's hard. I don't want to kid you, it's hard. Which means it ain't a popularity contest. This is all performance. And if you don't perform, people don't get paid and you don't get paid. That's why I'm managing these budgets. I manage budgets through the crisis. I built teams, man. And looking like me, don't you think that's where the paranoia comes in? Mm-hmm. That game is hard, man. It's hard, but you got to perform. And if you perform, you get it done.
Your son is an NBA player. Who's he play for again?
Come on, man. Here you go. Well, listen, let me be clear. We have an 8-year-old who is aspiring. We have an 18-year-old Ella, 8-year-old is Leo, 18-year-old Ella is a baller, and our son Cole is 20. He was drafted in the first round by the Orlando Magic and had a nice game the other night. So he's starting point guard for the Orlando Magic. We are so blessed and fortunate. A lot of hard work. My wife, especially, my better three-quarters, she's 100 all in. So she's done an extraordinary job.
So Cole comes to town. Now, are you a Knicks fan?
Right now, I've been rooting for the Knicks. I saw my man Oak the other day. So Oakley is good with me. Spike is all in. I love the Knicks. But, I also got to give a shout out to the Orlando Magic and my son, right? But I got to be. How's that going to work at home?
I mean, I was just asking. For the city. Listen to Mayor right now. I think, isn't he a New England Patriots fan and a Boston Red Sox fan or something?
That's true. Come on, man. Why are you going there?
Listen,
this is a Boston Red Sox? No, man.
So that's off the table. Even if Cole, so you're telling me if Cole played for the Boston Celtics?
I'm saying now, family is family, right? If he's going to the Celtics, I'm going, I got to be straight, right? Yeah. I'm going with my man, okay? I'm going with my man, ride or die.
That's the answer.
So, and you ask about the folks in the community I've been talking to all of them, man. I've been talking to Jamani, I talked to Rev, I crossed my man Kirsten, John Foy. I'm out there. Don't clap back the other night, got in the mix. So, but this is Hot 97. So I'm mixing it up with you all. This is a whole nother level. I'm good now.
Well, we're going to be watching your journey here, so this won't be the last time. Often, we talk to people and then something else transpires as this path to the primary and then ultimately the election. So I'm sure if there's some interesting things that happen or some craziness or you get done with us and you make a mistake, we're going to bring you back on and call you on it.
Hey, listen, I like the track record is there. So I would encourage you to go take a look at it. I ain't talked about it. I've been about it. So listen, I got total respect and admiration for what you all do. I know how important it is. And I know how you all keep it real and what you deliver to the community. And that keeps the community alive and woke and informed. And so I got love and respect and admiration for you all. And thank you for having me. Listen, this ain't about me. This is about we. It ain't about the crumbs. It ain't about the cake. It's about owning the bakery, which is what we ought to be about. And that's what I'm about and have been about. So I'm looking for your support. And whatever I need to do to earn that support, I'm all in for us.
Ray for Mayor. Follow him on Twitter, Instagram, rayformayor.com. It was a pleasure meeting you today.
Thank you. Respect.
Respect. We'll talk to you soon.
Take
Okay.
care.